In 1973, the NFL introduced a metric called passer rating, which allows you to evaluate a quarterback's overall performance in any given game with one convenient number. It's calculated using a player's passing attempts, completions, passing yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. The best quarterbacks in the league usually float somewhere above 100 passer rating, while the worst QBs in the league usually hang out somewhere in the 70s. In 2011, ESPN introduced a new and improved version of passer rating, which they call Total Quarterback Rating, or QBR, which also includes a quarterback's other contributions to the game, such as rushing yards. Both QBR and passer rating are widely used today. The average NFL fan has seen both of these stats on their TV screens many times, and most NFL fans have a general familiarity with these measurements. So, why did these stats catch on? Because it's nice to be able to analyze the most important player on the field with one quick, easy to understand number. This begs the question, why doesn't baseball have something similar for the most prominent player on a baseball field, the starting pitcher? Why don't they have a stat that combines things like strikeouts, walks, hits, and earned runs into one convenient number? Well, they actually do, but the average baseball fan has never heard of it. In 1988, the great Bill James introduced game score to the world. A pitcher's game score is actually pretty simple. Each game, the starting pitcher starts at 50 points. From there, you add 1 point for each out recorded, so 3 points per complete inning. You add 2 points for each inning completed after the fourth inning, rewarding pitchers for going deeper into games. And you add 1 point for each strikeout. Then you subtract 4 points for each earned run allowed, subtract 2 points for each unearned run allowed, subtract 2 points for each hit, and 1 point for each walk. That's it. It's pretty basic stuff that any baseball fan can understand. You punch in those simple numbers, and out pops the game score. Now, to be clear, game score is not some advanced stat that evaluates pitchers in any new way, and it does have some flaws. It doesn't account for ballpark factors or anything like that, and it rewards strikeout pitchers more than guys who pitch to contact. Bill James himself called the game score a kind of garbage stat that I present not because it helps us understand anything in particular, but because it's fun to play around with. But that's just my point. The game score is fun. And Bill James was exaggerating when he said it's a garbage stat. It's actually pretty useful. It is pretty strongly correlated with a team's win-loss percentage, and it does give us a pretty good picture of how effective a pitcher has been. Let's take a look at how the game score actually plays out. The highest possible game score for a 9-inning game is a 114. In this scenario, the pitcher strikes out 27 batters, allowing 0 hits, walks, or runs. The highest ever game score for a 9-inning game was Kerry Wood's legendary 20 strikeout game against the Houston Astros in 1998. Wood struck out 20 hitters with 0 walks and only 1 hit. This resulted in a game score of 105. The second highest game score for a 9-inning game was Max Scherzer's no-hitter against the New York Mets in 2015. No hits, no walks, and 17 strikeouts, resulting in a 104 game score. The highest score of the 2022 season was a 94-point game from Spencer Strider on September 1st. He struck out 16 with 2 hits, 0 walks, and 0 runs over 8 innings. But what kind of score should we expect from a more common performance? Let's look at a hypothetical quality start that would be considered a pretty decent outing, but nothing out of the ordinary. Let's say this pitcher goes 6 innings, gives up 3 earned runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, and strikes out 6. They would receive 22 total points for their innings pitched and outs recorded, and 6 points for their strikeouts. But they would lose 12 points for their 3 earned runs, 10 points for their 5 hits, and 2 points for their 2 walks. This produces a game score of 54. Now let's look at 3 pitchers from the 2022 season to get a better idea of what kind of scores to expect. First, we have 2022 Cy Young winner Sandy Alcantara. He averaged a game score of 63.8 for his Cy Young season. His highest score was an 88, and his lowest score was a 21. In total, in a Cy Young season, Alcantara posted 6 games with a score below 50 and 15 games with a score above 70. Second, let's look at a pretty league average pitcher in 2022, Frankie Montas. Montas started 27 games, throwing 144 innings for a 4.05 ERA. His average game score was 52.5, with a high of 84 and a low of 24. And third, let's look at a more or less replacement level pitcher from 2022, Corey Abbott. Abbott started 9 games with a 5.25 ERA. His average game score was a 44.4, with a high of 64 and a low of 16. So, we have a Cy Young winner with an average score of 63.8, an average pitcher with an average of 52.5, and a replacement level pitcher with an average of 44.4. So, a very broad generalization might be, a score below 40 is a very bad start, below 50 is not necessarily horrible, but certainly less than ideal. The 50 to 60 range is a little tricky, but it's more or less average. 60 or more is a good start, 70 or more is a really good start, and once you start approaching 80 or more, you're in the excellent start territory. So the big question is, why hasn't the game score caught on? Why don't we see a starting pitcher's game score on the TV screen when we watch a game, just like we see a quarterback's QBR? Why haven't you subscribed to this channel yet? Your guess is as good as mine. One reason could be that the baseball community can't even decide which version of game score they want to use. In the years since Bill James' creation, at least 2 other modified versions of game score have been created, like Game Score 2.0 on Fangraphs and Defensive Independent Game Score. These versions are more advanced, but they might also lack major appeal because they're not as easy to understand. What I like about the original game score is that any fan can do the math in their head simply by looking at the box score. In any case, if any version of game score is going to catch on, the baseball community should probably pick one and stick with it. But I for one would like to be the first to sign the petition to start getting some version of the pitcher game score onto a TV broadcast near you.